Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, we're back again this week, and we're going to talk about some football because I know everybody wants to hear about that game from Friday night between the Scotties and Bardstown. But first, we're going to talk about basketball because, crazy enough, we're only a week away from the start of the basketball season, and so we have Piper Lindsey in here, Barren County Trojanettes head basketball coach. Piper, thank you for joining us again this year.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Real quick question here. The boys get to go to Disney World this year. You guys did that a couple of years ago, but you guys aren't doing that this year.
We are not. We decided to wait a few years maybe before we do that again. We're actually just going to go to Owensboro Sports Center and play there. Get out of the county at least. But yeah, we are going to play there, so that'll be good for us as far as getting on to play on a college floor, which hopefully will help us in the long run.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things about that particular setup there, going to Owensboro and that kind of thing, is because whenever you make it to the regional tournament, the dynamics of that gym are just so different than any other gym you'll play in. So I'm guessing sometimes when you have a team that you hope will make it back to the regional tournament once again, you want to have a couple of experiences where you play in a gym so that floor and that space is not new to the players.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it takes four or five dribbles to get from one end to the other, but it's a little bit longer and sometimes maybe throws the kids off a little bit. But like I said, getting that experience early will hopefully help us. And then like you said, too, just the arena type feel, more open, the bigger, it's not as big as Diddle, obviously, and Rupp, too. We want to compare it to that too. But yeah, that hopefully will help us out.
Now, we had the Ball Gray Media Day earlier, and there were obviously a lot of questions related to the fact that there's a lot of expectation that Bowling Green is the number one team in the region, and I don't want to dismiss anybody in your district as we have this conversation, but a lot of people put out there that they expect your team to be right there in the hunt with Bowling Green once again. And I imagine that expectation is founded because I think you guys have played in the finals 4 years in a row, I think is what it is.
I think it's 4. Yeah, I believe it's 4 now. Yeah.
There's a reason that expectation exists. And, of course, you have 2 seniors coming back. Raven Ennis is rated one of the better players in the region. You've got a bunch of good young players. Katie Murphy, who has played a lot of minutes. I think she was in the 7th grade when you guys played at Rupp, as you mentioned earlier. You have Addison London back. She's kind of a hard-nosed player, I think, and shoots threes pretty well for you. So I guess those expectations are there. But for you as a coach and your players, how are you kind of looking at this season?
Oh, definitely expecting to be back, that's for sure. We had a meeting, I guess, the other day, just talking about our team goals and, what we wanted to accomplish, once March gets here, and that's still a ways away. We still want to focus on getting better every day. But like you said, that is definitely our expectation to get back to region, to get back to Rupp. Those kids you mentioned have been working hard already. Our practices have been solid, very competitive. We're again, we want to do what we can now to put us in the best position in March.
As a coach, how does it feel to be a program or in charge of a program where those expectations are at this level at this point?
Well, I think it kind of makes it a little bit easier. We're all kind of on the same page, and I know our numbers are down, but still, the kids that we have, I keep saying, it's quality over quantity, and the kids that are with us, they were all with us last year, and so I feel like that kind of puts us a step ahead. Going over things, they kind of know stuff already, and they know my expectations. I know what to expect from them. So I feel like we get a lot done in practice.
Well, and I guess one of the key parts to this year as well is hopefully health to start with. As I also mentioned, Macy Lockhart coming back from her knee injury last year. She played during the soccer season. So a lot of times that opening fear when a player has an injury like that, she's already gone through the process of getting that out of her mind by playing another sport. But how important do you think it is, or how critical has she been in terms of just getting back into shape and working her way back into the program?
Yeah, I mean, she's worked really, really hard, and she brings just another dynamic as far as just a great rebounder, and she battles. I mean, we had our first scrimmage last Tuesday against Campbellsville, and it's just like I looked over it and my assistant coaches and just like, hey, we really missed her. And, it's a pleasant surprise to have her back. And like I said, she played fearless again that first scrimmage, which, again, I was kind of a little nervous for her, and, just to kind of see how things are going to go. I'm not going to tell her that. Hopefully she won't listen to this. But no, just through practices and stuff, I think early on she was just talking about the difference it is between soccer and basketball. It's completely different conditioning. It's more cutting, I feel like, shorter bursts of sprints. And she's been really sore, but she's done a really good job of icing it and stretching and doing what she needs to do. And hopefully, like you said, we can just say injury-free.
I think last year when she went down, I think the immediate impact on you guys rebounding was evident. At least it was to me. I'm sure it was to you guys as well, because that seemed like one of the things you kind of struggled with throughout the course of the season is finding people who could get in there and get those rebounds that Macy was getting for you early in the season.
Yeah, rebounding, it definitely hurt us, but then also just another big. I mean, and when I say big, we're not very big. I mean, right. I'm calling our 5'9" kids our bigs. Yeah. And, we had Emma Hughes that had to step up that was 5'7", but tried to play and did an excellent job. I mean, she did exactly what we needed her to do. But
a lot of times last year, you ended up putting her on another team's center, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And so now, with Macy back, she's able to guard the big, or we've been working with her and Raven too. I mean, again, our size it's kind of our weakness, but again, we try to make up for it with our quickness and our guard play.
Well, and a player who did end up stepping up last year, who wasn't even in the program, as I understand, before last season, was Abby Varney, a freshman that got a whole lot of the time that Macy would have had, I guess, during the course of the season. Is that correct?
She did. I don't think she really played much at all with Macy, because she kind of made that comment the other day, just she's not used to playing with her. Well, that's right, because she didn't really get many minutes until after Macy went down. And, Abby's a hard-nosed kid that knows how to score. She honestly, I'm going to say something about Elizabeth Bertram. She kind of reminds me of her a little bit. Just wants to get to the rim and wants to do, whatever she can. A really good defender who has gotten a lot better since last year.
Yeah, and then I've already mentioned Katie Murphy, but you have the other pair of Katies as well, Katie Geralds and Katie Elmore. I'm guessing you ended up calling on them to get a lot of time last year with Macy's injury as well. How have they kind of worked in now that Macy's back?
They've kind of fit right in as well. They did play a little bit in the regional tournament, but Katie Elmore is more of our guard look, and then Katie Gerald's is kind of the big that we need. Again, if she's 5'7" big, but but no, they work hard. They're extremely coachable. Katie Elmore's really been working on her left hand. She's been very right hand dominant, so she's really been focusing on that, and then her shot too. And Katie Gerald's, she was one that was kind of shy, I think, and she's kind of opened up and is doing a really good job for us inside.
Do you have some other players that you're working in this year as well?
I would say another one that had a really good scrimmage was Allie Bowie. She's a sophomore. And then Taylor Strange is another freshman that we have that, again, these are 5'8", 5'9" kids that we're really trying to develop on the inside. Of course, Allie, she can shoot the 3 too, and definitely got to work on her strength. And then the other one I'd mention is Addison Smith. She's a junior. She's kind of been battling some headaches lately, but once she's there, I mean, she finishes layups for us. She gets down and she'll guard and she'll do anything that you ask, and she'll run through the wall if I want her to. But those kids right there are other kids we've been looking at.
I guess last year, Addison Smith, and there were a couple of others I think who may not be playing this year, you ended up kind of spelling at point guard, spelling Katie Murphy with them at point guard some during the course of the season. Is that kind of how that worked out? Yeah,
it has. And Katie Elmore was the other one that we've been trying to use a little bit at point guard, just to give Katie Murphy some minutes or some break. She plays, 100 miles an hour, for as long as she can. And there were times I probably left her in a lot longer than what I should have, but she just brings so much defensively and offensively as far as handling the ball and dishing it out to the open person. She sees the floor so well. But, yeah, Katie Elmore was one that we really looked at to run the point for us when we had to give Katie Murphy some break.
You never want to lose a player like you did Macy Lockhart last year, but is there a positive for this season in the sense that some of these younger players got minutes and experience in tough games that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look down towards the postseason, and I mean, sometimes our schedule, there are some chances where I can get some of my younger kids some experience, but playing on a floor, like Diddle, in that atmosphere, I would say, Katie Elmore and Katie Gerald's probably wouldn't have seen the floor very much. And who knows with Abby Barney? Who knows if she would have? So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the positive that you can look at, the experience that we bring back. I mean, we could go, I look at us going 7, 8, 9, 10 deep, right. Probably by March I won't be saying that, but right now early, I think that's a positive for us.
Well, and I guess at the pace you like to play, that's also a positive to be able to put that many people on the floor.
Yeah, we're a team that likes to get up and down. We want to press you and run and gun, and it's hard for kids to play 32 minutes with that expectation. And so to be able to get kids in and out, and for us to expect the same thing with number 7, number 8, will definitely help us.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your schedule here. I've already brought up the joking thing about not going to Disney World, but you open not a week from today, but a week from tomorrow, November 30th, at Warren Central. And then you turn around, 4 days later and play Elizabethtown, also on the road. Those first couple of games... Now, Elizabethtown will be a little bit different this year. They lost one of the kids that was a huge impact player, young player for them last year. She transferred to Bardstown, but they're always good. So when you see these two games on your schedule, what are you looking for from these opening couple of games?
Well, we just want to compete, and we want to see kind of, you might compare it a little bit to last year, but, we just want to get better. We always see, I feel like, a lot of 2-3 zone against E-Town, which is really good because a lot of teams, I feel like, do play us, and they play us because, it's hard to guard us man, and we maybe might struggle sometimes from the outside, but that'll be really good, I think, for us to continue to try to get inside and to put kids in different positions. But yeah, our schedule is kind of away at first, but it's just kind of how it happened as far as our scheduling. But again, we just want to compete each and every game.
Well, and those first two teams might be of a certain look, and then you're going to play Metcalfe County, which I imagine will once again try to shoot the lights out from downtown, which will give you a completely different thing to deal with. Is that correct? Well,
yeah, I would think. I know that they've got a new coach, so I don't know kind of his style of play yet with them, but I know that they can all shoot it, and they're all very similar to us as far as size. So, of course, we play that at Bowling Green High School, another good gym. So, but yeah, that will be a little bit different compared to the other two.
Yeah, that's that State Farm 4th Region Challenge they have over there. They've been doing that for a few years now.
Right.
A lot of good games on that particular day. And then you guys, Hopkinsville, December 7th, and you play your first district game on December 10th at Monroe County. How do you think the district shapes up this year?
I tell you, Monroe, first off, is going to be pretty tough. I feel like those kids have been playing forever together.
Right.
We're always going against Paisley Ford, and you got Veach and Myatt and Massengale. I don't know if she's back or not, but they've got a bunch of kids, bunch of guards that are tough to guard as well. But I think Allen County, I feel like Coach Dunn does a heck of a job, and he always, gets it tough on us to score against them, and they'll be tough to beat. And then Glasgow too, they've got quite a bit of experience back. So, I mean, again, I think anybody can win it. You still got to play the game. So, but definitely, it's going to be tough to get out of the district.
Real quick on these games in Owensboro at the Sports Center, you play McLean County, and then you play a couple of teams out of Indiana. You play Castle out of Newburgh, Indiana, and then Evansville Memorial. Do you know anything about the competition in that particular that you have lined up there?
Well, I just know when I first reached out to McLean County about hosting that, or about them hosting that classic, that they had told me that Castle and Evans Memorial were very similar to the top teams in our region, so like the Bowling Green. So I think that's definitely kind of perked my interest. Those are the teams we need to play. We want to play teams that, even if they beat us, they're going to make us better. So that's about all I know about those two teams from Indiana.
How does it feel to actually get the season started on a usual schedule instead of all of the issues that we had last year?
Well, looking back, October 15th has always been the first official day, and that's like the best day ever because it's also my birthday. So it's like cool. Last year it was like October 26th, I think, is when it was last year. So it's kind of different. Like, what a great birthday present. I had to miss basketball practice. But no, it's been good. We've had, I think, maybe 4 to 5 weeks so far of pretty smooth sailing, and then like our second scrimmage is tomorrow, and to open up at the right after Thanksgiving. I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah. Who do you guys scrimmage tomorrow?
We play LaRue County tomorrow. It's at LaRue County.
Yeah. Anything else about your schedule that when you look down here, games that you kind of circle and say, this is going to be a good game, a good test for us? You guys had a little bit, I think, of a rough run against the third region teams last year, as I recall. So are there any games on this schedule that you kind of got on here and you're like, this is going to be a good test, a different kind of team for us to see, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Apollo will be one. I mean, they won their region last year. I think they graduated quite a few, but that'll still be a good one. And then Pulaski County, they completely wore us out last year. I mean, that we were awful. And so, I think that the girls will be excited about that one. And then, even, of course, Somerset's kind of early, but that game will be a good one as well. And then, I just think every game that we play, looking at Bowling Green, that'll be a good one. It's later on in the year compared to what it usually is, but that'll be a good little test and kind of gauge to see where we are from there. But, I mean, all our games, I feel like, are going to be competitive. Greenwood will be another tough one, I think. So, I mean, it's just kind of taking game by game, one step at a time, and focus on getting better.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question now that's about the Bowling Green game coming up here. Now, you mentioned this later in the year. It's February 7th. That's a couple of weeks before the end of the season, before the district tournament starts, with the expectations, that kind of stuff. As a coach, do you kind of play that game vanilla? Do you just kind of or do you think you go out there and try to make a statement?
I mean, I think it depends. I mean, we'll just do what we do. We'll throw everything at them. We'll do our press and see if it works. And I mean, I think that you learned from that game. You take what you get. They'll probably throw everything out at us. I mean, Bowling Green's such a different team to play against, and that they play us so differently as far as physical. I mean, they're very physical and get up and, we can't run a lot of plays against them. Yeah. And so I think that knowing that when we play them at that 1st of February, hoping to play them again a month later, we might save a few things, but definitely we'll try some different things too.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Anything else about the upcoming season you can think of?
I don't think so. We're just excited. We're ready to get started, and glad to have hopefully a full gym of some fans. And went down to the middle school a few weeks ago, and they had a student section, so we were pretty pumped about that. Hopefully we can have one too. Awesome. But we're just ready to get back at it.
All right. Well, thank you, Piper, for joining us. Coach Lindsey there with the Barren County Trojanettes girls basketball team. Not the Lady Trojans, as people like to call it sometimes. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's in Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, I went to an exciting football game on Friday night. The Glasgow Scotties hosted Bardstown, and we talked about this game coming in to it last week on the show. That the interesting thing about it was it looked to me like Bardstown struggled to stop the run. That was going to benefit Glasgow. And the thing that worried me about Bardstown, they had this kid, TJ Greenwell. A lot of people talked about their quarterback, Brady Clark, who was good, but that Greenwell kid looked like the key to me to everything they did, because he was pretty physical and he was really fast, played on both sides of the ball, and I thought he was an impressive player. I would say, generally speaking, when you're a run-oriented team, the last thing you want to do is get into a 22-point hole and hope to win the game, because it just generally does not work out. But that's what the Scotties did. But they found a way to come back and win the game. They scored 34 straight, ended up winning 48-42. It was just an incredible effort on their part. They were still without Jay Long and Hunter Scott. Gavin Neal didn't play in that game. He's one of the sophomores they've asked to fill in. Tristan Franklin got injured during the game. I don't know what his status is for this week. So he was out. And yet, all this just culminated in the Scotties continuing to win these games in very impressive fashion, really, in the sense of just – it's the thing about high school sports that you love, in that all of that effort and all of that love goes into everything that's going on. And sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. But it is my favorite thing about high school sports, to be honest with you, John.
Yeah, it's the word great is entirely overused too often. People use great way too often. But that was a great game. And not surprising that Glasgow won. And we talked about last week, we thought Bardstown undefeated. But if you look at their scores and so forth, they had not been held to under 35 one time. Still haven't.
No.
And they also give up a lot of points, too.
Yeah.
So it kind of played out to a way that we kind of thought it may play out. It could be Glasgow was going to have to score to win. 48 is a lot, And
Yeah.
so, the way, comebacks are tremendous. And, it kind of goes to show you how things happened. We was talking to Coach Willett 2 weeks ago about the Glasgow basketball team just losing the big lead in the district tournament. Well, now the shoe's on the other foot. This was a tremendous comeback. And, I mean, it's hard to come back against a 13-0 team when you're down 28-6, and borderline on the borderline looks like you're going to get blown out.
Yeah,
and then just methodically got back into the game. And, I really think from the Glasgow perspective, the score at the end of the halftime, they got it to 28-24. 24 was huge. And the touchdown pass from John Carter Meyer
to Javon Clark.
To Clark, the catch was tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, sliding, diving catch in the end zone. And
no time on the clock when he caught the pass.
And I think Glasgow already had the momentum.
Yeah.
Because they were already starting to whittle into that league. But that was a monster play going into halftime because now it gets within one touchdown. And, the game was on after that. But, just a great performance by Glasgow. Stockton continues to be one of the best backs, not in just this area, but in the state. Put up, 210 yards?
Yeah, he was 29 carries, 213 yards. He had 4 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground. He caught a touchdown pass from Easton Jesse.
200 is that's incredible, but he gets 3 or 4 touchdowns every week, it seems like.
Yeah.
As long as he gets enough carries. And just, an outstanding performance by Glasgow. The comeback, it just makes it even more memorable for them, and to be honest with you. And those are the type of comebacks that can carry you to a state title. You got to have one of those. It seems like to me you got to win a game that you're behind, and this may be the one. And we'll talk about here in a second. The upsets. Glasgow's sitting pretty. They don't have to go through Cal anymore.
No, that's right. Well, and a couple of interesting things about the game itself. When Glasgow was down 28-6, there was some, disbelief, I think, on the sideline. Like they just couldn't believe it. But then they made a defensive play that kind of, and off of that defensive play, when they got the ball back, that's when they seemed to kind of gain some confidence because I think they realized their offensive line was opening holes, and the first guy that Kieran Stockton was meeting a lot of times was at the second level, and that dude didn't have a whole lot of interest in making contact with him after the first couple of times. And that's kind of what I wondered if that's what happened in that game because truthfully, Bardstown's linebackers and defensive backs were not very big. They were quick, but they weren't big, and eventually that was the thing that took control of the game, I thought. And
also a couple stops.
Yeah, I mean those stops set the tone, and then Glasgow was able to answer after that. I mean they rolled off 34 straight points after they were down, 28-6. So they were up 40-28, and it was just they did all of the things they needed to do, and they had all of the toughness you got to have in order to win those games, And that is the thing about football that is different than just about every other sport is, every sport requires some level of skill and mental toughness in order to win tough games. Football requires those two things and the ability to take the punishment of the whole of the game. And back to Stockton and John Carter Myers, Andrew Phillips, and some of these guys, those guys are playing just about every snap of the game, And that is also the other thing is, can you just handle the physical nature of the sport for the whole game?
At 17 and 18, yes.
Yes.
And as long as it's not 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Like end of the year, absolutely you can.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Mm-hmm. You put your best players out there in high school football, in this weather, they are going to play.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you not have them out there?
Right.
I mean, if you're serious about winning,
Yeah.
you got to have your best players out there.
Yeah.
And if it's 90 degrees, they wear out, but not when it's 30.
Yeah.
And they're playing on adrenaline and so forth. You have to have those players out there.
I imagine on Saturday morning they both felt great and miserable just from the physical tone of the game.
Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how miserable.
Maybe the winning killed off all of the pain that you
yes.
suffered the night before.
I guarantee you.
All right.
Yeah. So it's a great performance. I mean, they are sitting in a position, Glasgow, that they have not been in for a while.
Mm-hmm. 10 years, really.
10 years with a legitimate.
Yeah.
Arguably, they're the favorite now.
Yeah.
To win it all. I mean, you can make that argument. I'm not trying to put pressure, but they've got the number one RPI, and with the Paducah-Tillman upset of Christian Academy
of Louisville. Yeah.
That's a big upset because
it was.
Tillman's 6-6 going in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Paducah-Tillman was 9-2.
Mm-hmm.
They were 6-6.
Yeah.
Played a good schedule, but so's Cal.
Yeah.
And to go in and to beat Cal, sort of handily at one time. I mean, they were.
They were up 41-27 late in that game.
There you go. So now Paducah-Tillman has a tremendous history.
Yeah.
I mean, so, they're used to playing good football, and they'll roll into Glasgow with confidence, but Glasgow should also be confident. They also have a rich history.
Yeah.
And playing at home sure will not hurt.
No, and I guess, we've discussed the RPI thing. From the upside for Glasgow in this RPI thing is that they played a good enough schedule. As it turns out, that loss to Woodford County was kind of a positive for them that they played Woodford, because here's Woodford sitting in 5A, also in the Final Four, still undefeated. So, playing those bigger schools, we can just, we could argue against the idea of this bump for playing bigger schools.
Well, yeah, you don't get a bump for losing.
You don't get a bump for losing, but you do. You
get a bump for winning.
Yeah, you get the benefit of the doubt if you lose to a team that's still undefeated in 5A, I suppose. So, I mean, it's kind of. This has worked out for them. They got themselves in this position where they could host these games all the way through. And the way it had worked out, even if Cal had beaten Paducah-Tillman this coming Friday, they'd be hosting East Carter, instead of Paducah-Tillman. But Paducah-Tillman pulled off the upset. I did my little film watching, on Paducah-Tillman. There was no film on their game with Cal, so I read a couple of stories from the newspapers to get the info on that. Watched some of Paducah's earlier games, both their games against Union County. They lost to them the first time, 21-19. That's a team in their district. They beat them in their district championship. I think the final was 31-28. They kicked a game-winning field goal. They were down in that game 28-7 and came back to win it. Paducah-Tillman kind of shapes up a little bit like Bardstown in the sense that they got a quarterback who can sling the ball around the yard. The scary thing about him is he's just a freshman, and he's going to be pretty good, for years to come. They got another freshman who's pretty good, been playing a little bit more lately, and maybe that's had an impact on how they've played here late in the season. They've been working in a couple of these younger guys. They got a good running back who they've ridden pretty hard. They also don't seem to stop the run all that well. And, depending on Glasgow's health, I mean, that is a thing that could be their benefit once again.
Is Stockton playing?
As far as I know, he's playing.
They're going to be tough to handle.
Well, I mean, look, here's a funny thing, too, about Glasgow. I mean, they've got guys on their offensive line. They may have one senior on their offensive line. They're playing, I think Ryan Randall's a sophomore.
They're doing a great job.
They are. He's a sophomore. Isaiah Cianci is the center. He's the one senior. Cam Johnson, I think, is a junior. There are a couple of others off the top of my head. I suddenly can't think of the names, but they have been doing a great job here lately. And, like we just discussed, you give a couple of these guys, Andrew Phillips or Kieran Johnson, you get them past that first line, they're tough on the second line.
Yeah, and they don't throw it a lot, Glasgow doesn't, but they're effective when they do.
Yeah.
And it's generally a home run.
Yeah. I mean, I guess after they mash you in the face for a little while, people start staring in the backfield. Next thing you know, Javon Clark or Rico Crowder has gone by you.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Andrew Phillips,
they do a good job with play action.
Yeah.
With boots and things like that, where you fake that run and that. Oftentimes, when the defense has to defend the run, then it opens up big plays down the field. And Glasgow has has not only taken advantage of it, it just appears to me what I've been noticing and watching, their play calling has been extremely good.
Yeah. They're running second year of running this offense. They've got John Meyer's offense down, and they are playing well out of it. And it's doing all the things they want it to do. You know, I know it's going against the grain of a lot of what people in football are doing with the spread and the throw it around the yard and that kind of stuff. But I guess if you're not seeing it, if you see it for the first time and they're running it down your throat, it's just as new as running 5 wide, used to be. One last thing about that Glasgow game is that I don't know if you mentioned the play action. I don't know if you saw the video I had.
I did.
Of John Carter's second touchdown pass to Javon Clark.
I did.
He could have set up a tent back there and taken a nap.
Right.
That's how much time he had back there. So, I mean, it was an impressive all the way around by the time they got there.
So the Final Four is going to be Paducah Tillman in Glasgow.
Yep.
And East Carter, which is in far eastern Kentucky.
Ashland, Kentucky, more or less.
That's correct. Versus
Belfry.
That's a tradition. So
yeah,
the Belfry, Paducah Tillman, and Glasgow are the traditional rich schools. Of course, Belfry's won, and Paducah Tillman has won multiple state titles.
Yeah.
Generally at the 2A.
Yeah.
Now they're in 3A. I don't know a lot about East Carter.
This is their first. They had never won a regional title before this year. This is their first trip this deep in the playoffs.
Right.
And Belfry started the season, I think, 0-5, but they've won whatever it is, 5 in a row, 7 in a row since then.
Played a pretty tough schedule normally.
Yeah, and so, going into this week, I fully expect Glasgow to be able to beat Paducah Tillman, and honestly, I just fully expect Belfry to be there in the state finals waiting for them, just based on the fact they usually are
right
at the 3A level. So, it's
playing on. That's what everybody is. All football coaches' dream is to be practicing over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, 7:00 Thanksgiving night, I believe, is what Glasgow's plan is. At least that's what Coach Garman said after the game on Friday.
All right.
So, when the fans are welcome, all that jazz. If I see anything that changes or different, or if that, I'll get it out there on our social medias and our website and whatnot. Real quick, a couple of other teams in the area also won. South Warren, they beat South Oldham pretty severely. They get to go to Woodford County and play against an undefeated Woodford County team.
It'll be a tough one. We'll see. South Warren's defense, they're known for their defense. Woodford County is known right now for their offense.
Yeah.
Can they slow them down? That's the question.
Well, and Woodford County got Covington Catholic on Friday night.
Sure
not as good as Covington Catholic usually is, but they're sort of like a Belfry or whatever. They're always good.
Right.
Woodford beat them pretty handily. I mean, they were in control of that game pretty much from the get-go.
Right.
And then Logan County whipped Spencer County.
Just another great job by Coach Adler.
Yes.
Where that program's come is remarkable. They're in the semifinals. Of course, they got a tough deal. They go to Boyle County.
Yeah. Boyle's get pretty good this year.
Yeah, that will be tough. And in Russellville.
Yeah, Russellville whipped up on Newport Central.
They're in the Final Four.
Yep.
And they probably have a legitimate shot to get to the finals.
Yeah. I believe
Lexington Christian is the favorite, right?
They're the 2A.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, they would be the favorite just in any classification. Looks like this year, Lexington
right.
Christian would be. But I would say Pikeville, is I think the defending state champion, and but I believe it's Russellville looks like the team to beat right now from everything I've seen. I think what impressed me about Friday night, Russellville won that game 21-0. The fact that Newport Central Catholic could not score on them was the part that impressed me. If the final score had been 35-28, I wouldn't have been shocked.
Yeah. 7-0 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, so Russellville's defense is the thing that has been impressive since about midway of the season. They've really clamped down on folks. Baptiste and Rooster getting eligible, I think, has done more on their defensive side than their offensive side. Their offense was good already.
Yeah, they had a touchdown called back, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was an impressive win by them.
Green County lost to Mayfield.
Yeah.
Not shocking.
No. It would seem that Green County was as good as they
were much improved from last year, but they're not.
Their schedule, outside of that win over Taylor County, a lot of their schedule was not that strong.
Fair.
And so Mayfield.
Still to go from 2 wins to 12 is still a heck of a year.
Excellent. I mean, the guy should be in any discussion of Coach of the Year.
I agree.
Because, it is impressive. But Mayfield was by far the best team they've played all year.
No question about it.
So, that was all some good things there from the high school sports. Anything else that struck you?
No, I think it's it. I mean, it's Final Four. It's winners go to Lexington, play at Commonwealth. Not Commonwealth anymore. It's
Kroger Field.
Kroger Field, that's correct.
Real quick, I want to plug this real quick, and I want to thank people also for checking things out. We had video interview with Kieran and John Carter Myers.
Excellent.
On 104 The Score on Friday night.
Those guys did a good job.
They did. I really liked their comments about that touchdown at the end of the half that you mentioned.
Well, they said they knew they had it once that happened.
Yep. And then we had the photo gallery that was on there. We had a quick recap of the game that was on there. All that took me about 2.5 hours to get done. So, and a lot of people went and viewed it, shared it on social media. I appreciate them doing that. We'll be there again this Friday, barring something insane. So look forward to that coverage again. That's 104thescore.com. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's in Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, I would say we had a fascinating college football weekend, but that's not exactly accurate in the sense that the three schools in our state that we generally pay attention to all won handily.
Easily.
And, yeah, they really did. WKU beat Florida Atlantic 52-17.
Just another blowout.
Yeah.
Another 400-yard game for Zappy.
Yeah, and I think they forced another 5 or 6 turnovers again.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And of course they have a big game this week, and if they win this week against Marshall, they're in the Conference USA Finals.
Yeah, they'll get that rematch probably against UTSA, barring anything ridiculous happening anywhere. Although UTSA tried to find their way out of that championship game this past Saturday.
I would not bet against Western against anybody right now in the conference.
Yeah.
They look like, by far, to me, they look like the best team.
When they met UTSA the first time, they had just come off that tough schedule
Michigan
that you pointed
State,
out before.
Indiana, Army. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they obviously were not in their groove yet in all phases. Their offense was playing pretty well, but their defense was struggling. And UTSA took advantage of that. The game was closer in the end, score-wise, than it probably was during the course of the game. But I'm with you. The rematch could be a barn burner if we get there. And could be a barn burner in the Hilltoppers' favor.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. And then Kentucky beat up on New Mexico State. I don't know what to say about that other than thank God New Mexico State gets paid to play these games. I
just love Coach talk. It's just so funny listening to Coach Stoops of UK. His press conference yesterday or whatever about what's been the difference? I asked him what's been the difference these last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the last 2 games were Vanderbilt and New Mexico State. And if he was honest, he'd go, the difference is we played New Mexico and Vanderbilt rather than Georgia and Tennessee and all these other teams. But he was talking about the focus is better, their practice is better. I'm going, golly, come on, man. And their quarterback has played really good.
Yeah.
He's been fabulous, but they've also played 2 of the worst teams in football.
Yeah. Well, and what's his name? Will Levis. Apparently, he has taken to social media and put L's down as they get ready to play Louisville.
Nothing like taunting your rival before the game.
Yes, your rival who suddenly has figured out how to just score points. Malik Cunningham is playing an outstanding. Duke's not necessarily great, but Duke's better than New Mexico State.
Yeah, I think there's no question in my mind that Kentucky has an overall better team.
Oh, yeah.
But Louisville started off as a favorite, 2-point favorite, which shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
It is at Papa John's, and Louisville is really putting up the points.
Mm-hmm.
But, in fairness, they beat a bad Duke team.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a great win. But they've had some tough, close losses right at the end, too. So, I could see this game going either way, and I can almost guarantee you it'll probably be relatively high scoring.
Yeah.
In the 30s or whatever. But Louisville it's hard to have a lot of confidence in Louisville. They've found a lot of ways to lose, but I do think they're playing the best they played all year, and I'm not sure Kentucky is playing at the level they were when they started off. You just can't tell me beating Vanderbilt and New Mexico State is
getting you ready for this game.
Right. And so, but it should be a fun one. At least it's been a while since you've had both teams with winning records facing each other. Since they moved it to the end of the year, you've generally had one program going one way and the other one going the other way.
Yeah, a lot of times one of them's playing the spoiler role for the
Right.
other one. And this time, everybody's bowl eligible. Everybody's looking to finish the season on a high note, but nobody's playing for anything like exceptional that can be spoiled.
I agree. This would be big, I think, for Satterfield at Louisville. I think Coach Stoops has kind of solidified himself as, as a coach that can stay there for a while. They had him ranked up to the top 10 this year. Mm-hmm. Had that losing streak. That hurt a little bit. But Satterfield is one that's been fan base. They've not had great crowds, and the fan base has been kind of on them a lot for losing these leads. So I'm not for sure if it doesn't mean a little bit more for Louisville than UK.
Well, and Satterfield's been on eggshells in Louisville since his whole flirtation with South Carolina.
That's correct.
And he wasn't really helping himself earlier in the season, both in probably personality and how the team was performing in terms of losing leads or blowing game-winning situations and all that. But he has given himself a little leeway, and I'm with you. To win this game for him kind of gets a lot of that other stuff out of the conversation with him, and it sets a tone that's different. And also, it probably helps out on the recruiting trail a lot.
Yeah, they're getting annihilated in the state.
Yeah, they are.
So yeah, I mean, it's for the first time that I can remember for a while, a game that kind of means something. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's one. Yeah, it's interesting, even if you're not a fan of either of the schools specifically. It's an interesting game. And then our good boy Dan Mullen, talking about people who should have been walking on eggshells, but apparently didn't realize he was and was just crushing them. They canned him at Florida.
In certain ways, I'm surprised. Not surprised because it's Florida.
Yeah.
But, he's obviously has struggled this year. Mm-hmm. Whatever. But, they were pretty good the last couple of years. They won. They won 2 bowls. They won 10 or 11 games.
Yeah.
And they were in the SEC championship last year.
Yeah. They had consecutive 10-win seasons.
Yeah. But I thought his actions last year was weird at times.
That's what I was going to say.
He showed up for a press conference in a costume and was. They had some incidents on the field in which he got into with other coaches, and I just thought
the one where what was he yelling at the fans?
Yeah,
it was Florida fans he was yelling at
at the fans and yelling at the other coach last year. So I thought last year there must be an enormous pressure on that. Steve Spurrier walked away from the job.
Yeah,
just mainly at the end you either win the national championship or not, and he was a great coach there. Urban Meyer. Mm-hmm. Another national championship, walked away with health problems just due to the stress. So, evidently the fan base there is pretty daggone tough because since Urban Meyer's left, they've gone to now this is 3 that they fired.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money out there. They're paying him $12 million, $6 million up front and $1 million a year for the next 6 years, and they still probably paying the previous coach.
Mm-hmm. Well, and all 3 of them have had what can only be characterized as meltdown moments of some sort, either ones that were in public or
probably stressed because they didn't have it at the previous place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and here was a funny thing. I read this article.
They all wanted this guy.
Yeah.
This is what Florida wanted because he did a pretty good job at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen was pretty successful.
He was successful by Mississippi State standards. As a matter of fact, I was reading this column earlier today by Rick Cleveland, who covers sports in Mississippi, and he pointed out that Dan Mullen, when he went 5-6 at Mississippi State, got a 4-year extension. And what is he, 6-5? I guess is at this year.
Well, he's coming off they've not won an SEC road game.
No,
and the previous week was down to a lesser level program. They were down. It was 42-30 something at halftime.
Yeah,
to a school that's FBS, Sanford, and then losing to sort of not a very good Missouri team this week. So the year has kind of been falling apart on them.
Yeah,
but to fire somebody, boy, I tell you what, it's college football. They will. There's money everywhere because people just pay. Who knows? The guy from Texas has been there 1 year, may lose his job.
Right.
This is his first year because they've lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of just getting rid of people, that early and so forth. Do I feel sorry for him? No, because he's getting paid $12 million, not the coach.
Yeah, I don't.
I have no sympathy. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah.
I just think there comes a time these people running these big time. We've talked about this. Basketball is half out of control. Football is completely. They've lost their mind.
Yeah.
Just complete. There's just so much money involved in football. It's incredible that you can just pay. It frustrates me to charge what colleges charge with tuition for everybody, regular people, and then they'll just write a check for $12 million and just go away, football coach.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a complete disconnect there between what's going on in the athletic side of
and what's
colleges.
going on in life, because evidently that doesn't bother the people that go to Florida. Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, and just keep raising our tuition.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know. We talked about this a lot last year whenever with the BCS. I mean, not with the BCS, but with the national championship playoff situation. And, basically the Big Ten just violating their own rule to make sure Ohio State got the extra game so they could get into it. And, ever since then, I don't know exactly what to think about college football. I guess I enjoy some of it, but in the scheme of the importance of it, or the importance of the playoffs, the importance of winning championships, the importance of all of these things that seem to be so important to people, they've lost all value to me because of how things were handled last year. And since they've lost all value, to be honest with you, I would rather watch the two, the MAC and the Midwest Conference champions play each other in a bowl game than care at all about the playoffs.
Yep.
At this point, I'd rather see these programs that are.
You're a little cynical.
Well, they've not prostituted themselves to the money to the point where.
Or Dartmouth versus Yale.
Yeah, it's going back to what we discussed in that first segment. What I love about high school sports is so much of it is right now, and it's important right now, and it may bode well for the history. It can go down in the history books, and your name can be forever associated with success, whether you are a future mechanic or a lawyer. You had that moment. And college athletics on so many levels has lost all of that, at least at the high dollar athletics. Some of the lesser ones we talked about before with baseball and softball and, women's basketball even.
Seems like there's better perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess I just appreciate that.
I agree.
This is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's in Glasgow. There's your cynical moment.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, let's talk a little bit about some other sports that we can be cynical about, I suppose. We'll start with men's college basketball, but then we'll get to women's college basketball because there was a huge game between the top two teams in the nation in women's college basketball. But first, on the men's side, WKU, they still look a little bit lost in some ways, but getting Cameron Justice back seems to be helpful for
25-year-old Cameron Justice. That's right. Yeah,
graduate assistant.
I watched the Memphis game. WKU's 1-3. But Memphis is really good, top 10 in the country, and the Toppers led them for most of the game. Mm-hmm. They just ran out of juice.
Yeah,
they're a guard away.
Yeah,
I mean they're playing. Their point guard from Collins, McKnight.
Yeah, Davion McKnight.
They're playing him to death, and he's almost their only ball handler. I mean, I've never seen a college that don't have any more ball handlers than him. I mean, Justice. I mean, he hasn't played in a year and a half, and he had 18 points against Memphis. Played him to death. He has to handle the ball when McKnight can't. I mean, they have no other. I mean, Zion Harmon, but who knows? He may not play the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't played any. Hasn't even dressed yet.
Yeah.
And that was the other ball handler.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. And then they had the Maryland transfer who played about 10 minutes and then came out and never got back in the game. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know what's going on, what happened with that. But the group that he had, and basically the 6 to 7, I like the 7-5 guy too.
Yeah.
They gave it everything they had. I was proud of them, to be honest with you. But they are, they're I think they're another guard away right now because I just don't see how they're pretty much playing three guards: Anderson, McKnight, and Frampton, and then Justice off the bench.
Yeah. So
there's 4. That's hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and 2 of them are. One is a shooter and one's a scorer, and
They're
only one's really a ball handler.
That's correct.
And so it causes it's once you wear McKnight down, unless Justice can. I mean, he's got to get into shape.
Yeah.
He surely is not in game shape yet. I mean, he just came off the bench, coaching on the bench.
But he played well. 18, but that's asking a lot.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Kentucky, I don't know.
Kentucky looks pretty good. I mean that's a good win. I think the win against Ohio's got a good team.
Yeah.
And
they usually cause problems because they're usually a very good shooting team.
The one thing I know about Kentucky, they're a lot better than they were last year.
Yeah.
The West Virginia transfer he's a beast inside. No question about it. He's really good, and of course they're full of transfers. The Wheeler and Washington, the freshman, is not a transfer. So they're much better than they were last year. And are they Final Four? I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen enough players. Or,
who knows anything?
Who
right
knows?
now?
Who knows? So I don't know. Louisville is struggling. I did like their win against Navy, who beat Virginia, and I watched that game, and I think Faulkner has to play.
Yeah.
Now
he played very little the other night.
I noticed that. But against Navy, he brings, I think, a calmness, and he distributes the ball around. I thought he was one of their best guards when he got in the game. I mean, the ball moved. He wasn't seeking. They got too many guards, in my opinion, that are seeking shots. Too many.
Yeah.
And they have no chemistry, zero. They've got transfers. The coach isn't there. The assistant coaches running the team is trying to play too many people.
Yeah. He seems to be married to the idea that you have to have a score-first point guard or a score-first guard, and not married to the idea you got to have a guard who sets up your chemistry for your team so you can be successful.
And they have no on-the-floor chemistry. They may say all the right things to get along and blah, 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 but they didn't look like it to me. They are not scoring. They're still stuck in the 60s, and they want to play faster. And so far, they barely beat a very bad Mercy team the other night.
Yeah.
Detroit Mercy barely beat them. And Detroit Mercy hadn't beaten a Power 5 conference in years.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know. I guess whenever Mac gets back, that'll probably make a difference. I mean, surely it would. But obviously whatever's going on at the moment just is not gelling whatsoever.
It's hard to gel when you play 10, 11 players and you don't play fast enough for 10, 11 players.
Yeah, right.
And but I did think Faulkner, I liked how he played. And that would be somebody that I would turn to more because he moves the ball. In high school he had to do all the scoring.
Yeah.
He didn't even seem like it bothered him at all. And I liked his attitude. I liked everything about how he played.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying it because he's from around here.
He's a 100% effort guy too. I mean, he's there's no plays off when he's on the floor. He doesn't. I mean, sometimes you see some of these guys and things don't go well or go the way they want it to, and they slack on defense.
Sometimes that happens when you got a lot of free agents.
Yeah, right. Because everybody's playing for next. They're not playing for now.
Right.
Real quick, let's talk about that South Carolina-UConn game. That's 1-2. I
don't know who won. I saw the halftime score. UConn was up 2 when I
South Carolina ended up winning the game.
Okay.
I think they may have ended up winning by 8 or so. They kind of took control of the game late.
South Carolina's probably the biggest team in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a 6'7", 6'6" girl, and they are physical and strong. And, South Carolina, Don Staley's done an incredible job.
Yep. What's interesting to me about that game, I think this is...
Why'd they play at noon?
Well, that I don't know.
That should be a primetime game at night.
See, but again, that should be the game everybody should have been watching tonight because going back
12 o'clock on a Monday, that made no sense to me.
I guess it was the TV time or something they could do. I have no idea, but it's a real short change, and it's a short change in this way. They do something in women's college basketball right now. South Carolina and UConn do not have to play each other. They're doing this because
to create interest.
Yeah,
it doesn't help to play at noon.
No, so then the broadcaster decides, I guess you're going to play at noon on a Monday when nobody's able to really watch the game instead of at 7 o'clock on Monday or 7 o'clock on Sunday or Saturday or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're doing this, and this is a game people should be watching and should have the opportunity to watch because they don't really do this in men's college basketball. They dodge each other for the most part for as long as they possibly can.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons I'm not always a big fan of men's college basketball because I just don't like that.
I wasn't even aware they were playing.
Yeah.
And then because it was at noon, I look at what I can watch at night. I didn't even think about looking at a noon, no suit.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I happened to see that they were playing, and then I was like, well, at first I saw it, and I was like, did they play yesterday? And then I realized, no, they're playing today. So then I just kind of went to check it out. But more than anything, I was like, I cannot believe South Carolina and UConn are playing each other. Basically, third week of the season, fourth week of the season, however it pans out for them.
UConn plays anybody.
Yeah, and that's also great. I mean, that's what I love. And I mean, we've seen this year in and year out. These top teams in women's college basketball,
Global plays anybody.
Yeah, they will play anybody, and it's great. And
just play them at the right time.
They should be putting them on prime time, like you said. I mean, it should be a prime time game because those teams are good basketball teams.
Yes, they are.
All right, it's the Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.